So this session, the third part in the series, if you've done all three, if not, they believe the other two might be recorded so that you can always watch them as well. But we're going to talk about test prep. And this isn't a subject that I always like to talk about. I mean, because it's test prep. But we're going to talk about how to create tech-enhanced questions to prepare our students for success. And the overall key to this is that this is a process. It's not an event. So test prep is a process, not an event. All right. It's something that we can start from day one of the school year all the way to the end of the school year. And, you know, we can make it to where it's not even test prep at all. It's just best practices of what we're doing, the activities, that experiences we give our students every single day through Nearpod's activities that prepare them for when it's time to take that test, they're ready to go. Now, I'm going to invite you to take notes during this session as well, using Nearpod's note-taking feature. If you take a look in the lesson that you're in with me, you'll see this little paper and pencil on the upper right-hand side. When you click on this, this screen will pop out to the right and will ask, where do you want these notes saved? Yeah, they'll be saved via email or sent to your email, saved to your Google Drive, or saved to your OneDrive. Once you choose that location, this little screen will go blank and you can take notes out to the side. This is an extremely powerful tool that you can have turned on and use for students as well. So when I'm done, I'll go up to menu in the upper left-hand side and click end of session. When I do that, you will get a single document sent to that location that you chose. It'll have a copy of every slide from my presentation, as well as any answers that you submit to any activities and any notes that you took connected to that slide. So we're going to start with a quick movie. I want to make sure that you can see my screen. And so why a series on test prep, and then why now? So make sure that you've got your sound turned up. We're going to watch this quick movie. Here we go. All right, so you saw that message there, making test prep a part of what we do every single day. And then we don't even have to call it test prep, because that just causes stress and anxiety, right? Not just for our students, but I know I got it. So what we're going to do is to talk about some things that we can do to help with that. So our learning objectives for this session, here's some things that by the end of the session today, here's what's going to happen. You're going to be able to access pre-made standards aligned resources for ongoing skill instruction and practice. We're going to take a real good close look at content knowledge versus technology comfort. And we're going to design activities embedded in lessons every single day. It's embedded test prep. So if you were to go into Google and search for test prep, I'm sure that's the first thing you're all going to do after this, right? There's some key things that we might see. One of them, have a positive attitude. How important is that for us to have a positive attitude about test prep? That's kind of hard sometimes. But the thing is, as educators, we have to, because our students feed off of our energy. If I'm coming into my classroom with a bad attitude about the tests, I guarantee you my students are going to feel the same way. So we have to have a positive attitude. And not just that, when our students have a positive attitude, when we just help them to believe that they can do this, it's amazing what can happen. I've seen it firsthand many, many times. Students achieving even beyond what I expected of them because they believed that they could. We could have a pep rally of some kind, getting our whole student body ready to go this testing season. Getting a good night's sleep, which is so important. Getting a good breakfast in the morning. Taking practice tests and drills and exercises. But a lot of these things are out of our control. I know that not all of my students came to me with a good night's sleep, or had eaten breakfast in the morning, or maybe even dinner the night before. And those are some things that are out of my control. But we have some things that are within our control. And we're going to focus on those two things throughout the rest of our session today: skill proficiency and tech proficiency. The skills proficiency, those are the skills that are being taught and monitored in the classroom. Those are the things that you're doing every day with the curriculum that you use in your instruction. But Nearpod can help with that with our content. And we're going to dive into how to truly search and fine tune our search within the lesson library to find exactly what we need in that moment. But then we're going to look at the tech proficiency piece. And this piece gets overlooked a lot. The tools that are used as part of the instruction in the classroom. Now, thinking about the tools that you use in the classroom every single day as well, the technology tools. What do your students use every day? What do they use to test on? We really need to take a real close look at that as we start to get into prepping for the testing. So when we look at skills proficiency, you can grab lessons from Nearpod's lesson library. Now, we have over 22,000 lessons, activities, and videos, standards-based, standards-aligned, that you can search for, download, and use. What's something in the classroom that we all lack, typically? Time. Time tends to be one of those things we all lack in the classroom. And I've been to some places where we lack air conditioning too, and that's no fun. I'm sorry if that is the situation you're in. But lessons, you can download them from our library, and every single lesson is 100% editable. So, teacher-created lessons. How many of you out there use PowerPoint or Google Slides for your instruction, or even just PDFs? And those are great, right? Why do I need to use something different if I use what I've always used? Well, with PowerPoints and Google Slide presentations, they tend to be sit and get lecture style presentations. There's no interactivity. There's no engagement there. So you can take those, drop them into Nearpod and Nearpodize them, and bring in our engaging media and activities and formative assessments to prepare our students as well. At the same time, getting real-time data in that moment to let us know where our students are at, to check for understanding. And that way our students are actively engaged and participate in the learning themselves. But also formative assessments we can put in every single day. It doesn't have to be right at the end, 2 weeks before testing. It shouldn't be. So in searching for lessons and content, we need to make the most of our search because that can take some time. We can search for resources by state standard, by content, by grade, by keyword. And we can also browse other resources where we start to look at things that are relevant to what we're teaching in the classroom right now, or maybe what's going on in the world around us. We have lessons, current event lessons, for things that happen around the world, we have lessons right away. We can check for new and timely lessons, lesson type, publisher. So what I'm gonna do is if you watch my screen right now, you might wanna have to go back and forth between tabs. Maybe if you're in the lesson, you'll wanna go to where you can see my screen right now. At your Nearpod homepage, you'll have this gray navigation bar down the left-hand side. And of course, this middle section is where all of your folders and lessons that you download and create, that's where those live. I do highly recommend creating folders because if not, your lessons will become a hot mess really quick. They just keep stacking up. But on the gray navigation bar on the left-hand side, I'm gonna scroll down until I get to the Nearpod library. This is where we find the content to help us with skills proficiency. And there's a few different ways that you can search. One, the search bar at that top. You can search by topic or standard. If I am doing a unit on rocks and minerals, I can just type in rocks. Everything down below will be filtered by rocks and minerals, lessons, activities, and videos. Now I can also search using these menu items across the top here. Featured content is scrolling across the top. And you'll see new content scrolling across. And these aren't just single lessons. These are lesson packages and bundles. And so if I scroll down further, I see more featured content. Anything that has to do with the current month, we've got lessons right here. Scrolling down more, classroom culture builders, perspective analysis lessons, core subject lessons, current events, time to climb. I want to pause on time to climb. If you haven't done a time to climb with your students yet, I highly recommend it's one of the first things you do. Time to Climbs are a gamified formative assessments. They're getting test prep practice in a fun way. You literally have students begging to take a quiz. It's a little weird, but they'll beg to take a quiz. And we have ones that are pre-created for you. So you don't always have to create everything yourself. Scrolling down, you'll see more science lessons with Corinth, social studies with iCivics, Nearpod original videos, and one of my personal favorites here, Nearpod VR or virtual reality. Drop students into virtual reality. Check these lessons out. There's hundreds of them in there as well. I can also search by grades. Click on the grades tab, by subject area, and content type. Now the content type I want to pause. You're going to see videos. Maybe you don't need Nearpod for an entire lesson. You might just need a video. Go into our video library. We have thousands of videos. Now, if you have a school or district license with Nearpod, those videos are all interactive, all of them, which means there's formative assessment questions built into the video itself. And you can even create interactive videos yourself as well, bringing in a YouTube video and embedding questions. So in something as simple as watching a video, students are getting test practice because the two things you can put in are multiple choice questions and open-ended questions, short or extended constructed response. Activities, single slide lessons. One common misconception is, well, if I'm going to use Nearpod, I've got to use it for an entire lesson, 10, 20, 30 slides, and that's just wrong. One single slide used strategically can make all the difference in the world. These activities are single slide lessons. And here's the 4 different activity types. Time to Climb, drag and drop, draw it, and matching pairs. And we're going to take a look at those activity types as we progress as well. I can also search by publisher. If you click on the publisher tab and scroll down, you're going to see a lot of our partners with a lot of amazing content. You will see the grade level and the subject area on that tab as well. But in the upper right-hand side, you're going to see this blue Filter by Standards button. So if you click on that Filter by Standards button, there's going to be a drop-down. In that drop-down, I can choose my state. I can choose the Common Core standards if I want, the Next Gen Science standards, but I can scroll down and find my state. So for example, if I go down here and I find Texas, that's just where I'm from, I can choose my core subject area, say science, and choose my grade level. Let's go 4th grade. Every lesson, activity, and video down below now is filtered by those 4th grade state standards. And if I want to go further or deeper, I can click on strand and find that exact strand that I need. Now, once I do that search though, you'll see, I can see there's 889 different resources for the 4th grade science standards for Texas here. If I look to the right, 121 of these are full lessons, 121 of them are single activities, and then 647 of those resources are videos. If I want to pinpoint that down and just take lessons, I click on lessons, and that's where I'll find all those individual lessons. When you find a lesson that you want, you can preview that lesson, or you can click add to my lessons, and that lesson is put into your lesson library. And that's where you have access to make changes. Because as I mentioned before, every lesson is editable. You can go in, make changes. You can differentiate for your different learners. You can bring in audio accommodations, like putting your voice on slides if you like, and even bring in different modalities for students to answer with different activities. Or if that lesson's too long, take slides out and throw them out. Make that lesson shorter. It's totally up to you. So you've got all of this content, and I challenge you to go into that lesson library, search for what you need instead of creating it on your own first. Now, if you do need to create on your own, you can do that. You can easily click one of the create buttons up here, the blue one here in the upper right. Well, it's gotta be white when I scroll down here. Hold on, get rid of this. Let me go to my library here. You'll see a create button in the upper right-hand side, and you have a blue one on the left-hand side. It does the exact same thing, and that's where if I wanted to create my own lesson, I could, and then bring in my own resources, PowerPoints, Google Slides, and then bring in Nearpod's activities for that. So go in there, look at that content, look at what's available to you, search by standard. All right, So now let's take a look at using data, right? Data to guide our next steps. Well, teaching a live Nearpod lesson, you of course get great data in the moment. I can watch things coming in live on the teacher dashboard. Just like what I had you doing the matching pairs activity at the beginning, I could click on that teacher dashboard and check all your scores out right off the bat, check for understanding in the moment. But we might want to go back and see the data afterwards, especially if it's a student-paced lesson. You can click on the Reports tab in the upper left-hand side of the gray navigation bar at your homepage. You'll see a Reports button, one of the top 3 there. When you click on Reports, it will take you to a screen where you have a panel, a bar, representing each lesson that you've taught. Now you'll see how many slides are in that lesson, but also how many sessions. So if you launched a lesson more than once, let's say maybe you have 4 class periods during the day, you'll see 4 sessions. When you click on that bar, you will see the actual links, and they're all stamped by time and by date. And you can see how many students were in that lesson with you, as well as if that lesson was live or student-paced. You can click on this pencil icon on the right-hand side, and you can change the title of that report if you want. If I want to say period 1 on this day, period 2 on this day, I can do that. When you want to see that report itself, I'm going to click on the actual link, and that's going to take me to a quick summary, an overview. I will see my class list. Eventually here. Sometimes it takes just a minute. There we go. So I've got this list here, and I can see participation. A check mark means they participated, a dash means they did not. I have all of my columns right here for my different activities. If I want to see for the draw it activity here, for example, I can click the blue arrow key here and just toggle things. So all those that did participate are at the top or at the bottom, however you want to. When I want to see the actual work, I click on that blue report button above that activity, and then it takes me to the activity reports. This is important that we can dive into these as well. If we truly need to check for understanding, we may miss something during that live session, but afterwards I can go back in, because like a draw it activity, a drag and drop activity, those don't self-score. You have to manually go in and monitor and check for understanding. So I can scroll through and see all of my classes draw it activities for this. And on this toggle here, I can just navigate with the arrow key right to the next activity, or I can hit the drop down and navigate directly to an activity if I want to. For example, in the open-ended questions, I have all the answers here. And if they left an audio answer, I would have a play button so I could listen to that audio. I'll talk about that some more as we come up. Next to activity reports, we have student reports. So if I want to see the individual student report, I can click on that and start with the first student alphabetically. So this student, I can see all of their work, every activity from the draw it activity, their poll answer, collaborate board, time to climb answers, all the way down. And I can navigate to the next student or hit that drop down and navigate to an individual student that way. And when you want to download these reports, you can click the download in the upper right-hand side. Choose an entire session report or individual student reports. So I can choose individuals or hit all of them. And then just choose where you want these saved and what file type, either a PDF or a CSV file. And if you need to share that data with an administrator or a coach or someone, you can click the email button and email it right to them directly. So always important to go in to those reports. Now, because we should be using data to drive our instruction and to check for understanding as well. One thing to remember, audio that students use in the open-ended question will be in the reports. You can access it. All right, so now we're gonna jump into, we've jumped from skills proficiency and we're gonna jump into tech proficiency here. This is a piece that commonly gets overlooked and it's crucial. You know, our students today are born with technology, kind of digital natives, but there's a lot of skills that we take for granted that they may not have. These are skills right here. This list of skills are skills that students have to be successful on the state tests. This first one, keyboarding skills. Keyboarding is an important skill that a lot of us take for granted. Some of us out there learned on actual typewriters. I'm not saying electric typewriters, I mean real typewriters that have the extra click, 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 and the ding. Some of us. We assume that our students know how to type. And a lot of the state tests have open-ended responses the students do have to type and answer, starting typically in 3rd grade. Funny story, I was in with a kindergarten class in the computer lab, and I thought I want them to start learning how to type right now. So I got them on a typing program, doing 3-letter words. And so we had them, their little hands on home row, and I timed them for a minute, and I said, go. After that minute was up, I started taking scores. I had some students, I got 7, I got 9, I got 8, and then one student, I got 59. And I looked at him again and said, did you say 59? And he said, yep. And I said, okay. I said, can I watch you? And he said, yes. So he sat down at his little computer there, and I stood right behind him, and so did the rest of the class, because it's kindergarten, we all wanted to watch. So his little hands were on home row, and I said, go, and this is what happened. Thumbs only. And he did it. So I really had to think, and it dawned on me, this is how our students learn to type, on a little thumb keyboard. And so I started watching the rest of the students, and sure enough, most of them were just thumbs. That's not a real good strategy for typing. And so we do need to teach our students keyboarding skills, trackpad and mouse skills, that ability to move a cursor on the screen. What devices are your students testing on? Are they using a trackpad on their Chromebook in class, but do they have a mouse to use for the state tests? The device matters. What they're practicing on absolutely matters. That can be a barrier to success. My school district was all iPads. My students were used to typing on the screen the entire year, and we'd purchased a whole lot of external keyboards for the iPads for testing time. And our students sat there. They looked at it and struggled. When we finally took those keyboards away, their hands were there, typing on the screen. It's important that they're practicing on what they're going to be testing on. Multi-step with scrolling, we take it for granted. Most state tests will have a reading selection on one side, question on the other. Usually the reading selection's on that left-hand side. Students may get to that test and see 3 paragraphs in front of them here, and they're answering every question based on those 3 paragraphs, not realizing that there's actually 10 paragraphs that they have to scroll through. That's a barrier to success. Working with the timer under a time constraint, they don't always get all the time that they need. Digital tools on the toolbar. So important that our students understand and realize that there are tools for them to use typically on these tests. Usually they're in the upper right-hand side. Nearpod's tools are on the bottom in the middle, and that's okay. It's a matter of utilizing the tools they have with them. Now, before we move on, another quick personal story. I taught in Oregon for many years, and our state testing has been online for many, many years. And I remember going in that first year. That very first year, I was excited. I knew my students knew the content. I knew it. And so I was ready. I was excited. We took the tests, and after the summer was over, I got those test scores back and my jaw dropped. I was upset. I was actually very upset because those scores did not reflect what I knew my students knew. And when we got the results back and I could see the released test items, it became very clear what the barrier to success was. It was this right here, the tech proficiency. My students did not know how to interact with the tools. They didn't know how to take the test. It wasn't the content that got them. It was the tech proficiency skills. So what we're going to do is to spend some time looking at some technology enhanced questions. I'm going to help you go through it. I'm going to show you how to build one of each of these and give you some time to actually build one yourself. So what you're going to see is a series of 5 different Nearpod activities. First one we're going to talk about is the open-ended question. It's one of my favorite activities. The technology proficiency skill we're looking at is keyboarding and multi-part scroll. Okay, so if you can, down below you'll notice that this is a hyperlink. You can click on this activity. It's going to open on another tab for you. I'm going to click on it myself right now. And you can just join as a guest. It's a multi-step open-ended question. So when we look at the open-ended question here, you're going to see that it's multi-part. Students are going to have multi-part questions that they're going to have to navigate through those steps. They're also going to have open-ended questions to where it's a short or extended constructive response. And some of our students are going to also have to speak verbally, depending on their accommodations. And it's important that they can speak out loud as well. If you'll notice, though, the directions they do have to scroll through to see everything. So there is some scrolling in this here. You'll notice there is reference media. It's going to be important that our students get used to using reference media to pull evidence from, whether it's text, a video, a website, whatever it might be. So part 1, for example, read the passage and use evidence from the passage to support your answer in the question below. So part 1, they have to open the reference media and read through it. When they click out of it, part 2, answer each question in complete sentences, label your responses. So here's the thing with the open-ended question. One of the things I love. I know that not all of my students could type an answer in for lots of different reasons. They struggle with spelling, they struggle with typing, whatever it might be. With the open-ended question, with the flip of a switch, you can enable student audio recording. Down below, you'll see that you have a record audio option here. So all the student has to do that they can't type can just click that button and start to speak, and it's recording their voice. It's not going to be speech to text. It actually records their voice. When they're done, they click stop, and then they can submit that answer. Now, they can do a combination of both, written answer and audio answer, and that could be your multi-part right there. Your part 1 could be to read this text, talk to your shoulder partner, and click record and record your conversation about 2 different things you learned. And then part 2 could be, now you're going to type what your partner shared with you, whatever it might be, however you formulate it, right here. So this is an open-ended question. Now, you'll also notice that the immersive reader tool is here, this book and speaker icon. Anytime that you see that tool, that's the immersive reader tool that students can use to read the directions and the possible answers out loud on a quiz or a poll. It's an amazing tool if you're not familiar with it. I'll let you toy around with it yourself. I'm not going to go into it too much. But remember, all a student has to do is to click on it, and then there's some options. They can even have it this text translated into any of about 60 different languages and read out loud in that language as well. It's an amazing tool and support that students have built into almost all of our activities, but it is an option that you have to turn on yourself in your lesson settings for it to be available to students. But I'll point you into some directions afterwards on how to really explore that some more. So here's the thing with this. I want to give you some time to create, but I'm going to walk you through that creation process right now. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm at my Nearpod homepage, and if you want to get to yours as well right now, you can. Open up another tab on your browser, get into your own Nearpod account, however it is you get into your Nearpod account, whether it's a single sign-on, ClassLink or Clever, your district login credentials, or whatever email address you use to sign up for your account. Get into that account now. Once you're there, I'm going to click on one of the Create tabs. Remember, there's a blue one in the upper right-hand side, or a white one on the upper right-hand side, a blue one on the left. And in that drop-down, I'm going to choose Lesson. And you'll see that first thing you see is I have an add content or activity. I can add a quick slide. It's just like creating a slide in any other program. Or you can upload your own files. This is how you bring in your Google Slides or your PowerPoints if you want to. But for the sake of what we're doing today and practicing, I'm just going to click Add Content and Activities. And what I'm going to do is to scroll down these items. You see everything broken into media, where you have Create and Interactive, but then you have Activities, Quizzes and Games, and Discussions. I'm going to choose Discussions because that's where the open-ended question is. And I'm going to click Open-ended Question, and I'm going to click Add. So right now, I can include my directions. And my directions can be anything typed. You have a rich text editor here. Now you've got all these different tools. You can add bullet points, numbers. But for math teachers, check this out. The upper right-hand side, you'll see this FX symbol. This is the equation editor. So if you want to include equations, in your question. You can do that with the equation editor right here. Now, off to the right-hand side is where you see the reference media. I can add an image, audio, or other media. When you click on this, I can bring in an image. Here's a map or a diagram. I can record audio, and that's something I can use, and I'll explain that in a second. I can bring in a PDF for my students to read. I can grab it out of my drive or drag it right off of my desktop. Here's a video to watch. It'll direct you to YouTube to find a video. Audio or web content, which is a website to explore of some kind. Now, here's one thing I'd love to share with you too. Let's say I want to bring in something for my students to use here. And some districts or some state tests have a calculator tool, right? They have a calculator tool built in that students can use. Now, well, we don't have a calculator, but here's the thing, because it's reference media, if I go to, let me find one here. I'll choose web content. And I find, say, a calculator online like it does most. I can test that link out, click save. My reference media now, right here, so when students get to this activity, whatever, whether it's an open-ended question or a quiz or whatever, they can click on it, and it will open up that calculator for them on another screen, and then they can go back and answer. So anything with web content you can bring in. Now, if I want to enable student audio recording for my students, I will click enable student audio recording, this little button right there. I just turn it on, just like that. So then those students will have a record button when they get there. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to create an open-ended question yourself. And I challenge you to think of multi-part. You can use the one that's built for you here as a reference. And I'm going to give you a few minutes to create. And then we're going to come back together and jump into a different activity. Now, one thing I want to share with you real quick. My lesson I'm creating right here, take a look at the title of my lesson. It's called Untitled. I highly recommend that you name your lessons. If not, all of your lessons will be called Untitled, and it'll be very difficult to find. Just click lesson details, type in whatever it is you want. Unit 2, lesson 3. Tag it with some descriptive tags, words to make it searchable. Put in your grade level, your subject area. That makes it searchable by you and anyone else if you share it into your district or school libraries. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to give you a couple minutes. I'm not going to give you a lot. I'm going to give you about 3 minutes right now. That doesn't seem like a lot, but it can be. I'm going to give you some time to create an open-ended question. Feel free to check out the one that was created for you there. And I'm going to use Nearpod's quick launch tool. Start this timer. And we'll come back together here in 3 minutes. And if you have any questions, please post them into the questions section, and we'll do our best to get through those and answer those right away. All right, we're going to come on back together again. That work time is up, and we're going to have some more work time. We're going to dive into some other activity types as well. Now, I saw something in the Q&A, and I want to just, it's something so simple, right? Where is the timer tool? Now, at your Nearpod homepage where I'm at right now, the upper right-hand side, you're going to see the Create button. But right next to it, you see Quick Launch with a rocket. When you click on that, you can launch an open-ended question or a collaborate board all by itself. But you also see the timer tool. So you can have an on-screen timer. It's such a handy little tool, and it's right there. All right, so that open-ended question, such a powerful tool. And I want to share one thing with you, because some of our students, I know in Texas, the TELPAS test, for example, students that need to, that are learning English and need to practice speaking out loud. Instead of reference media like a calculator, I could leave something like an audio recorder. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click audio recorder. Hey class, here's what I'd like you to do. Practice reading all the text that you see above. Practice reading as much as you want. Once you're ready, click the red record button below and read that out loud to me. Once you're done, click stop and then submit. Instead of directions in here, the text field, I can just put words, whatever I want, and then save. So now students will be providing me a reading sample or practice speaking, whatever, and listening to directions verbally as well. All right, so now we're going to move on to the next activity type, drag and drop. Now the drag and drop activity will 100% simulate that type of technology enhanced question that students are going to see. This one right here, for example, is going to focus on trackpad, mouse skills, and digital toolbar. So if we take a look, we can click on this one as well right now. And I'm going to click out of that one and open up this next activity. Now the drag and drop activity, you have directions at the top here. And any of this, the drag and drop activity and even the drawn activity, these instructions are covering part of that background. And sometimes students don't realize that they have to hit the blue instruction button, the arrow, to remove those directions up. And that's something that you model for our students as well. But you'll see these natural disasters off to the left, and students drag those where they think they belong on the screen. But students also have tools down below. They have all the tools, the crayon tool, where they can change the color and thickness that they can use to further show what they know. They have a text box where they can type things in as well. You'll notice part of those directions. Add a text box next to the type of natural disaster that you know the most about and provide as many facts as you can. So students would have to click on the text box, the two T's, and this is important. They can click, hold, and drag that text field where they want. They can adjust the size if they want to, the color, and then they can start to type in the box. Now, in doing this as well, manipulating that text box, students are getting really good practice for text entry type questions. They're going to see text entry questions where they'll have to physically click in a box and then start typing in. Where we can't set pre-made boxes like these for them to just click in and type, they can create a text box wherever they want to. So you can create those spaces for them to create their own text boxes in. Now, also for math instructors, and some of the math tests that students will see will have an equation editor that they have to use. Students have access to an equation editor in the drag and drop activity right here as well, also in the draw it activity. All they do is to create a text box, and then they click the advanced button. And they'll see that FX tool right here. So students can click on that FX as well, and they can create their own equation editor using the equation editor as well here, and insert those in. So they can do that as well in the drag and drop and the draw in activity. They have access to that. All right, so here's another piece with this, and I want to share with you. I love a drag and drop activity. One thing in a live drag and drop activity while you're teaching, you can pop in and see everybody's screen at once. You'll see everyone's screen at once, which is an incredible way to check for understanding in the moment. And in a live situation, if you have a drag and drop activity and a draw it activity in your live lesson, you can now add live feedback, which is a brand new update. So try this activity out. All these tools down below that students have, you will have when you create your own drag and drop activity as well. The three dots out to the side, students can bring in their own images. You can even bring in animated GIFs and video on that background if you want to. So I'm going to leave that there. And now I'm going to go in and create a drag and drop activity with you really fast. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click add new again. And I'm going to go down to quizzes and games. And then I'm going to click drag and drop. And I'm going to click add. So for the drag and drop activity, you'll include your instructions, reference media, and then a background of your choice. And you can put any background you want for the students. But students can also create their own. All I have to do is to click add background, and you can scroll through. We have some that have some columns already prepared for you, but you can also just go into upload an image and grab one from YouTube here. Not YouTube, excuse me, Google. Let's say a Venn diagram. I'll throw a Venn diagram in here really fast. Any background you want. You can use these tools to label them yourself. Then you choose whether you want images or text labels the students will drag in. You can't do both at the same time. It's either one or the other. So if I want an image, I click image, add image, and just look for Google, say frog. I'll grab this one here because I like his eyes. It'll always start right in the middle, and you just choose what size you want and click done. It's going to throw it into the side. This is then where students have those out here. Now, you'll notice that unlimited copies is turned on by default. That means that students could drag 10,000 frogs out here, and they will try. If you want them to have one of each, just turn that off. Now, if you want, instead of images, you want text, you just choose text labels and then type in what you want. So if I type in frog, I do the same thing, choose its size, click done, and it throws that out here. Now, it doesn't have to be single words. It could be sentences and short paragraphs. So if you're doing, say, sequence of events, a timeline of some kind, you can have all those statements out to the side where students drag them out here. Now, here's one thing. This can take some time to create, right? If you have a school or district account at the Premium Plus level, the one way to check is if you click on your profile on the upper right-hand side, your picture or the icon, and that drop down, if it says Premium Plus, you'll know. But another way to know is if you have this panel on the right-hand side during a drag and drop activity. This is an activity bank. If I don't have time to create one myself, I can simply type in what I'm looking for. Frogs. There's one life cycle of frogs. I click on it. There we go. The activity's got the background, directions, everything I need. It's already in my lesson now. In less than 5 seconds, I was able to add it. So if you have access to the activity banks, leverage it. If not, you can create your own very quickly here. I'm going to give you a few minutes to create a drag and drop activity. Now, the thing with the drag and drop activity is your students are going to see this type of technology enhanced question on their state test, where they drag the items in where they belong. It's good practice that we can throw into almost any lesson. And so what I'm going to do is to give you 3 minutes again to create this on your own. I'm going to go up to quick launch, hit my timer, 3 minutes, and go. And if you have any questions, please ask them in that question section. We'll do our best to answer them. Here we go. Oh, one thing I want to mention too, if the drag and drop activity, if you have a silver level, you will not be able to create a drag and drop activity with the free version of Nearpod, which is the silver account. I apologize, I didn't mention that earlier. If you have a school district account or anything higher than the silver account, a paid version like gold or platinum, you can create them. But if you have just the free Nearpod account, the drag and drop activity is one that you cannot create yourself. So, but if you want to, you can continue to search through content, because you can find content in the lesson library of drag and drop activities. So if you can't create one yourself right now, jump on in to the Nearpod library and spend a couple of minutes right here. Go down to the content type, activities, and you can start to find individual activities here that you might be able to use. If you scroll down, you'll start to see, here's the drag and drop here, verb tenses, you'll see them labeled, so you can find some drag and drop activities that are pre-created for you. All right, let's come on back together again. That short work time is up, that 3 minutes is gone. So hopefully you had enough time to explore that drag and drop activity and creating one or finding one that's pre-created for you. Now, our next activity type, we're gonna take a look at Draw It. Draw It's one of our most versatile tools in our activities library. And we're gonna talk about the digital toolbar, Respond and Explain. So I'm gonna click on this one with you and jump into it. Practice activities, Draw It, and quiz. So you're gonna also see a quiz in here as well. So for example, you see solve the equation, show the steps you use to solve the equation at the top here. Students have access to the crayon tool, the highlighter tool, and a text box. And so they can utilize those tools however they'd like. Now, I have found with math, writing numbers is a little easier for me, I know, with this tool than writing letters. But students can also use their own text box to create as well. So try this out. I'm going to scroll over to the next one just to kind of show you. And then a quick quiz. Now, the Nearpod quiz will simulate the types of quiz questions that students will see. Now, majority of state tests, I know in Texas here, for example, up to 75% of that test points can be through multiple choice questions like this, which leaves the rest of those question types, and there's a lot of different ones, and we can simulate those a lot with the draw it activity. Now, the quiz, multiple choice quiz, the nuance with multiple choice questions on a state test now, the nuance is that a lot of the times it's going to be a multi-select. There's very rarely going to be one possible answer for students to choose from. You can set up multi-select with the quiz as well. You can see a reference image was put in for students. And during a quiz, while you're teaching, you get to see on the teacher dashboard results come through live. I can't tell you how important that is, to be able to see them live, saving you time, able to group students to catch things in the moment. I don't know how many times I gave a quiz earlier in my career to where I gave that quiz, I got those quizzes back, I graded them when students were gone. I looked at the data, I noticed, oh great, 85% of my students failed this quiz. That's a me problem. That's not a them problem, that's a me problem. And now I need to fix that the next day, which puts me off pace and time is gone. With a Nearpod quiz, you watch results come through live. You see it in the moment, so you can stop. Whoa, hold up right here. Or pull students aside individually. You get that data instantly. All right, so now let's talk about how to create these yourself. So I'm gonna go to add new, quizzes and games, and I'm gonna start with draw it, and then I'll go into quiz. Draw it. Anytime you click on any of these activities, you'll notice a little illustration on the upper right-hand side, a quick little animation kind of showing you what that tool is, as well as a description down below. I'm gonna click add. Notice I do have an activity bank on that right-hand side. So if you do have that out to your side, your school or district has that level of Nearpod, you can find pre-created backgrounds for you. But here's how it works. You've got your direction field at the top. And on those, the practice one that we just saw, you saw an equation. So if I wanted to type an equation, I could with the equation editor. With the draw it activity, you can also add a timer so students work under a time constraint. Sometimes that's nice in a draw it activity because students are working on their masterpiece and they don't want to stop. And sometimes we have to work under a time constraint. If I don't want to put a background, I don't have to. We noticed that in that practice exercise. It just gives students a whiteboard because students can use the tools, they can bring in their own images if they want to. Even images that they've snapped from Nearpod's activities like a 3D model or a virtual reality field trip where they take pictures and they bring them in and use these tools to label. But to bring in a background, all I have to do is to click add background and then click the add background button. And I do a quick search, whatever I want. Maybe I need graph paper. I'll just throw one in. I can throw that as a background if I want. If I don't want the entire background, what I can do is to bring something in as an image. Do the same thing. Just to show you, I'll grab the same one. And it starts with an image that I can then drag around and keep it a little bit smaller. Right? I have the control to resize it. So if I want to, I can create a text box and leave students some information out to the side. If I want to make this fun and colorful, I can click the three dots and even bring in animated GIFs if I want to. Flashy arrows pointing at things. I can embed a video on here if I want to for students to use. You can put anything you want as a background here. Whatever you can find on Google or bring in yourself, you can have it there. Now, if you have the activity bank, you can look out to the side if you want, type in what you need and search for. If you have the activity bank, I challenge you to type in the word template. Oops, got to spell it right, but it read it anyway. You've got all these different templates out that you can bring in really quick if you want to. You have choices. But if not, simply add a background and put anything you want right there. So I'm going to give you some time to toy with this. But what I'm going to do, though, is also show you now how to create a quiz really fast. I'm going to add new, quizzes and games. I'm going to do quiz. Now, other quiz practice. If you want your students getting used to some multiple choice, you can also do time to climb if you want. Now, I'm not going to walk you through the time to climb process, but here's the difference. With time to climb, you can have images as possible answers. You can still do multi-select as well, where they have to, more than one they have to choose, which I love because it forces them to slow down a bit. And you get great data in the moment with that. Now on the quiz, if you look at the illustration here, the upper right-hand side, this is your view. You get this teacher dashboard. You see all the scores. You get a pie chart in the upper left-hand side where you see green or red. So I'm going to click Add New. I insert my question, whatever I want, my possible answer choices. I can add multiple answer choices, and maybe it's multi-select. So they have to have this one, and this one chosen in order to get it correct. I can have reference media. For example, read this article first. That's what they're going to see. I can bring a PDF in. Let's say if I've got one right here, I can click and I drag and drop it. So students have a PDF. If they want to read this, they have to read it first. It opens another tab. Read this article, which then again, they have to practice scrolling. They're going to have to scroll through, and they can go back and answer that question. And you can keep adding more questions. And this is something you get to watch live in the moment. So I'm going to give you some time to build right now. You can either build a draw it activity or do a quick quiz if you like, or both. That's up to you. So I'm going to set this for about 5 minutes right now to give you some time to build and to ask questions. All right, we'll see you back here in 5 minutes. And once again, I don't want to interrupt you, but just to share with you the difference in adding backgrounds here. You can bring them in either as an image that you resize, or just a background with this background button. It's like a square cut diagonally, and then add background. And adding a background will fill the entire background. You can't resize it or move it. Sometimes I like to add my background as an image with the image button, the mountain and moon, because then I can resize it and move it wherever I want. I have some freedom with that, and leaving me some space for some other things. And I'm going to interrupt everyone again while you're working. Keep working. You can just listen. I know this is a lot to get through at a very short amount of time. It's not ample time to really dive in deep. But what's going to happen is as soon as we go through these different activity types, I'm going to walk you through resources that are available to you so you can take your time to explore your learning on your own. I'm going to point you in the direction of some really good resources that you can sit down, watch, and learn about all of these activities at your own time, instead of drinking out of a fire hose like you are right now. So know and rest assured that I will leave you with, point you in the direction of some great resources before we're through today. All right, everybody, we're going to come on back together here. And before I move on to the next couple activities, I want to stop and pause on this draw it activity again really fast, because I want to show you how you can really prepare students for some of the things they're going to see, the different question types. For example, they are going to see graphing type questions. And typically on the state test, when they see a graphing, they're going to have a graph like this, a grid, where they have to just simply use the cursor to plot those points, plot these certain points or coordinates. They can utilize this tool. It's all about in the directions that you give to your students. Use the crayon tool in this certain color to plot the points that you see right here, where they can choose the thickness, the size, and they can plot those points. Now, perhaps they're going to see also a bar graph of some kind. And so when students see that, a bar graph of some kind, they can do the same thing. They can use whatever tool you want them to do to create those bars. You can set the background, and they use their highlighter tool or pen tool to create those bars. On a lot of the state tests, they will get the bar graph already there, and they simply click where they need that bar to go. But we can't just click and create the bar. Our students can draw it. And then they're getting some of those tech proficiency skills, cursor control, using the tools that they have available to them to create these bar graphs. There's also going to be, in a lot of states, you'll see like an inline choice drop-down box where it's a gray box. They click on it, drops down, there's answer choices to highlight. You can simulate that yourself very easily as well by type this amazing sentence in, no judging. And then I use the shape creator here to create my shape. I need that little gray box. I create my shape. I can just change the color to simulate what they're going to see. And then on the down below, I create another text box with those possible answer choices. And they have to highlight the correct answer there. Now, one important skill is that you can take a snippet of some kind, because most state tests have practice tests online. In Texas, I'll go to the website, I'll go through a practice test, and I'll take a screenshot of certain question types and post that question type as the background right here in a draw activity, and just adjust the direction so the students are using the tools that they have available here so they can still see what that test is going to look like, but use the tools they have. And then I can start to simulate those different question types, building them myself throughout the different lessons that I'm teaching. And this looks like a hot mess right here. My apologies. Let's go to something. There we go. That looks better. All right, so let's move on here to the next one. Fill in the blanks. This fill in the blanks. Now, I want you to take a look at this. It's Tech Enhanced Text Scroll Bar. The fill in the blank activity I love because they're getting the drag and drop practice, exactly like they're going to see. But also, this activity is one that will self-score. So we'll provide a score for students and for you as well. You'll notice they drag those items where they need to go. And once you're done, you can click done and it'll tell you how many you got correct. And also, as you as a teacher, it lets you know as well. This is one of Nearpod's older activities, originals, and it's a powerful, powerful activity, and it's extremely fast to create. And this might be that one thing that you want. Maybe it's a test for prior knowledge, or maybe it's a quick formative assessment after a lesson you teach. Maybe this is the only slide you use. Maybe you teach your lesson and all right, everybody go in, here's their code. This is the activity, this is the formative assessment to check for understanding. So I'm gonna walk you through, I'm gonna leave this here, but I'm gonna walk you through how to create this really fast. Watch how fast this is. I'm gonna click add new, quizzes and games, and fill in the blank. I'm gonna click add. The first thing I do is I choose what background color I wanna use, whatever that may be. I click in that background and I type in my text or I copy and paste text. You may find a reading sample that has all your vocabulary words embedded, whatever it might be, copy it, drag it in. I'm just gonna say, the dog jumped over the fence. Super creative sentence, right? After I get my text in, I click next. Then all I do is to click on the words that I want removed. And then I click, but it's done. It's done right there. That activity is done. And so when students see it, this is what they're gonna see. Just like that. Look how fast that was. And especially if you have text set ready to copy and paste, it's even faster. All right, so what I'm gonna do before I give you time on that is I'm gonna go off to the next activity, the last one, which is matching pairs. Now we started with matching pairs, and this is a good one to work with timer, but the timer does not work on matching pairs on a student-paced version, and that's what you're gonna see with this one right here. Matching pairs is as simple as creating your pairs. Now, we have a lot of pre-created matching pairs content in our library. It's also another one that has the, if you go to create it, the activity bank is there. So to create a matching pairs, I'm going to add new, quizzes, games, and I'm going to click matching pairs and add. And then it's going to freeze just like that. Matching pairs, try it again. I'm going to try that one more time. Not sure why it's not liking that. All right, trust me, the matching pairs is cool. You should be able to click on it and it should work for you. But for some reason, I just got kicked out of my account. So I'm going to go in again really fast. So let me try this again. Quizzes and games, matching pairs, add, and now it works. Fantastic. So you do have an activity bank. If you have that activity bank, we have hundreds of pre-created ones. All you have to do is include your instructions. Click add pair, frog. On this one here, I'm going to add an image. Quick Google. Here's my big orange-eyed friend right here. There we go. There's my first pair. And then I create another pair. You have to have at least 2 pairs for it to work. So it's just as easy as that. You can create. Now, I love matching pairs because I can put that at the beginning to check for prior knowledge. Teach my lesson, do the same one afterwards, or give a quiz afterwards. Formative assessment to check. So at this time, you can create matching pairs or a quick fill in the blank. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and then we're going to come back together again. If you don't want to create one yourself, go into the Nearpod lesson library and search activities tab and search for one of the matching pairs activities. We go. Now I'm going to give you 3 minutes on this one because I've got some things I want to share with you before our time is up. One tip with matching pairs is if you don't like what you see in the matching pairs activity, one thing I like to do is to go into, say, like Google Slides and create my text colorful and fun with my images. And I just take snapshots of those and bring those in as images off my device. So, because sometimes the text can look kind of small on the matching pairs in the activity itself, I just bring everything in as images that I create in another, with another background source of some kind. I just happen to use Google Slides for that. All right, everybody, let's come on back together now. Hopefully that was enough time to create one of those activities or find something in that lesson library. What I'd like to do is to bring you back together, make sure you're watching my screen. As we start to move forward, this website, nearpod.com/test-prep, you can get there to get some more information and some more resources. But I also want to share some resources with you right now, some things that can help you along the way. Now, at your Nearpod homepage, where I'm at right now, if this gray navigation bar here, actually, let's go into the Nearpod library real fast. At the Nearpod library, on the Nearpod library homepage, you're going to see under featured content this button that says how to use Nearpod. This how to use Nearpod, some of us tend to just overlook it. But these are lessons for you. There are 3 lessons in there for students, an orientation, basically teaching students how to use the tools in Nearpod in a low stakes environment. But if you click on how to use Nearpod, there's a whole series of brand new videos that will walk you through step by step how to create each of these activities. Some that I just went through with you. They're called Nearpod Essential Tips and Tricks. You'll see here's how to create a poll in Nearpod, a quiz, matching pairs activity, creating a lesson, a full lesson in Nearpod, draw it, time to climb. Now, each one of these videos are under 4 minutes and they follow like a 3-part format, a 3-2-1. It's like, here's the 3 steps to create this activity. Here's 2 different ways to use it. And here's 1 pro tip. It walks you through. You can learn about each activity at your own pace. You simply click on it. You can click preview and just watch it, or add it to your lessons and watch it on your own. Those lessons are right there in the Nearpod lesson library. Now, if on the gray navigation bar on the left-hand side, if you scroll to the bottom, you're also going to see teacher resources here. This is a gold mine. On our teacher resource page, if you scroll down, you're going to see our calendar. If you click on month, you're going to see all of these free public webinars that you can attend, similar to the one that you just attended. But if you're still learning what Nearpod is, want to learn how to create your own lessons, take a look at the sessions here. You see using Nearpod with Microsoft, using Nearpod for beginners, plan, edit, and create lessons, how to bring in your own resources. These are free. They're 60 minutes each. If you can't be there at this time, just sign up and we'll send you a recorded copy that you'll have. Now, if you scroll down a little further, you're going to see our YouTube channel. YouTube channel, you can go and you can find all of those same Nearpod Essential tips and tricks there. There's a playlist called Nearpod Essential Tips and Tricks. Right here under How Can We Help? Teaching with Nearpod, anything you want to learn how to do in little bite-sized chunks. Creating a lesson or video. This is how you can dive in and learn how to bring in your own PowerPoints, bring in your own Google Slides, integrating with other platforms. If your district or school uses an LMS, a learning management system like Canvas, Schoology, Google Classroom, the directions are all right here in integrating with other platforms. So I highly encourage you to check those out. You can take control of your own learning. If you want to learn more about Nearpod, how to utilize it more effectively and more efficiently. If you scroll down further, you're going to see our blogs. These blogs update weekly and they're incredible. I learn a lot from them myself. We have a lot of amazing guest writers and there's lots of cool tips and tricks. And you always see 3 right here, but if you click on our blog, you can go search through the whole library of them there. So definitely check those out when you get a chance. So as we start to reflect here, one thing I would like to do with you, once again, at your Nearpod homepage, I'm gonna go back there again. I mentioned earlier that importance of the immersive reader tool, that students can have text read out loud to them and translated in the possible answers, quizzes and polls, and the directions. Now, here's the thing too. That tool is not available on all content slides that you download from our library, but any slide that you create yourself in a Nearpod lesson, in our slide editor, if there's text on it, that tool will be there so that students can have it read out loud and translated. My profile is going to be in the upper right hand side, right next to Quick Launch with the rocket. Your profile is there too. When you click on that, it'll be your picture or an icon. Click on it. In that drop down, this is where you see your Nearpod type. Premium Plus. If you have a school or district account, it might say Premium Plus. If you have a free Nearpod account, it'll say Silver or whatever level you have. But down below, you're going to see Lesson Settings. If you click on Lesson Settings, you only have to do this once. There's lots of settings there that I'll let you go through on your own, but the third one down is Enable Immersive Reader. Turn that on, and then students will have that immersive reader tool to help them out. It's a powerful tool to use, especially if they're doing student-paced lessons and need a little extra support. It's an all or nothing thing. Either everyone has it or nobody does. But I found it positive to have it on for everybody because the students that need it use it. The ones that don't, they just kind of ignore it. So that has to be turned on here. Also, if you want your students to have that note-taking tool that I shared with you at the very beginning, it has to be turned on right here as well. Enable student notes. Now, if you're not going to use it with your students, like let's say maybe you teach kindergarten, first, maybe second grade, I don't recommend turning it on because students can end up down a rabbit hole. Like one student clicks on that tool and all of a sudden they're in a Google Drive somewhere and their friends follow. So you don't have to click save for any of these settings. They just stay on if you leave it on. You'll click on the Nearpod logo in the upper left-hand side. That will always take you right back to your home page here. All right. Also, at your home page, you will see these tabs at the top. You're going to see Getting Started with Nearpod. And if you go in here, you can play with a demo here, adding an activity, a lesson or activity, launching a lesson, then you get your badge for the Getting Started badge. But I also encourage you then to take a look at these ones, the purple ones, Becoming a Nearpod Certified Educator. It's an amazing process. It's free of charge, and most of you are already doing everything you need to do this. Click Attend a Webinar. One of our free webinars. You submit an original lesson. It will walk you through the process, everything that's needed for that, for your submission requirements. All right, and then you complete at least 30 activities. not all in the same lesson, of course. We just keep track throughout the lessons that you teach. And then you claim your NCE badge or Nearpod Certified Educator badge. And this is a badge you can have on your email signature if you'd like, if that's something you collect. But more importantly, it adds that title to your name in our system, Nearpod Certified Educator. And it can be shared with your school administrator as well. Share it on your social media. And so that's something that you all have access to, when we highly encourage you to join that team, that community of Nearpod Certified Educators. All right, so I would like to thank you personally as well for joining us today for this session. I know it's a little late for some of you. You have access to an extremely powerful learning tool that can be transformational in what you're doing. One of the things I love so much about Nearpod is that it allowed me to hear every student's voice. It provided my students an opportunity to share their voice that I couldn't normally hear before. For example, the open-ended question, every student can answer. I can hold them accountable to answer, audio or text. And I couldn't even show you in this session, but if you don't know, in a live session, you can share those student answers out to every device anonymously. So those students that can't speak, I can share their voice with others, give them praise. They just need to know that their voice is meaningful, it's powerful, has a purpose, and validate them. And you'll start to see more engagement and some real magic start to happen. So leverage the lessons that are available to you. You don't always have to create them all yourself. Anything that we can do starting now to the end of the school year and then roll that over, just a process. Getting students used to using these tools available to them, interacting with the technology enhanced questions in Nearpod's activities, they're going to be set for that test. We shouldn't even have to call it test prep. It's like test prep with no tears, right? We need to go into the test taking season with confidence. We need to have confidence, our students need to have confidence that they know the content and that these technology proficiency skills aren't the things that are going to be the barrier to success. So this was a lot to take in an hour and a half. So I appreciate you sitting with us today. You have resources available to you. I challenge you to utilize them. Get in there and push all the buttons. You're not going to break anything. If you can start with anything, I would start with a time to climb. Start with a time to climb. And remember, if you're not sure what to do with time to climb or how to do it, you can go to the Nearpod library, how to use Nearpod, and then find the time to climb, watch that video, here's right here, and then build one yourself. You will see some student engagements. Students will freak out and they'll beg to take a quiz. Like I said, it's weird. It doesn't matter the age level, K through adult, everyone loves a time to climb, and it's great test prep practice, and you get great data in it as well. It looks like our time is up, everybody. Now, we have a quick post-training evaluation. If you have a minute, that would be great. If not, that's okay too. It just helps us to get better at what we're doing. This session here, what session did you attend? This one is called, let me find it here. We'll call it Next Steps. This one is Next Steps right here. My name is Jason Clark, and I appreciate you for what you do. Thank you for what you do each and every day. You have the most important job in the world, and it is the hardest job in the world. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being with us this year. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful rest of your night and a wonderful rest of your week. So thanks, everybody.